So the question is, how do you get all of the dust out of the Manna Pro incubators, the Nurture Right 360? So I've noticed the more that I hatch in this incubator, the more dust collects in here. And by dust, I mean the dander from the chicks as they're hatching. They've got all of this little golden fur from my Buff Orpingtons. It looks like golden fur, but it's the little down feathers from your chicks that are getting stuck with the humidity, moisture in here. And it gets all stuck in the fan here and all up in the coils and the wiring, and it is a complete mess. And of course, when you go in with a paper towel and you're trying to wipe all in here, you can only get so far. And cleaning the fan, I've tried Q-tips and I've tried blowing it out. You can blow all you want, whew, but you are not getting all of that out of there, and it makes a mess. So, there are screws that you'll see inside to access the fan and to access underneath. And I totally hear you. I was so scared to take it apart and get all up in there because of all the wiring, all the mechanisms. But let's think about this. If you leave all this dander in here, that's just bacteria that is sitting in there inside the fan. And the minute that you put those eggs in there and this fan is blowing all that dander onto your eggs, that's bacteria that is introduced to your incubator, to your eggs, and can affect your hatch rate, because bacteria can enter into the shell and cause a early embryonic death with your chicks. Now, we don't want that. So we need to get this as clean as possible before the next hatch. So what you're gonna need, a screwdriver. We are going to be unscrewing these so that we can access the fan and access the wiring under here. Make sure that this is not plugged in. You do not want to have any electrical issues here. And then the next thing we're gonna need, a handy dandy vacuum. So big vacuum, little vacuum, whatever you got, we need to vacuum this out and get as much of the dust out of there, and then we're going to be wiping it up. It's really important that you do not get the electrical components wet. You don't want to submerge this, so we are going to be doing as much dry cleaning as we can first, and then we're gonna go in with a little bit of a very lightly damp cloth to clean up in here. And then we'll put it all back together. So before I get started, just to show you, so I did unscrew on this one, so it does actually come up, but look at that mess. Like, that's a lot of Buff Orpington chick dander in there. And yes, this little humidity reader, that does slip on out of there so that you can lift this up. If it feels like it's stuck, it's because that's still attached and you just have to gently slide it out. In the back, you'll see that the wiring is attached, so you cannot pull this out completely, but that's okay. You don't need to. You just need to be able to lift it up to be able to access that for vacuuming. And I'll be honest with you, this stuff is caked on there because of the humidity and the way it dries. You're not gonna get it all with the vacuum, but at least you can get as much as possible with your vacuum and then go back with a very slightly wet cloth. So look at this, even after vacuuming, I only got some of it up with the vacuum, but some is better than nothing. And you will notice there's still a lot in here, and there is a screw to access this area. And the fan, I wasn't able to get any suction through here, so these two screws, I'm gonna lift those up and access the fan. So handy dandy screwdriver, we're gonna go in there. Now remember, righty tighty, lefty loosey. So to loosen this up, we are going to go to the left, or shall we say counterclockwise. And if you have the right side screwdriver, those screws are gonna come off real easy. So I undid this screw and this screw here, and then gently lift this up. Just gotta be careful because of the component back here, but it should lift right off. And look at all that, look at that. Ready? Let's see what we can do. better, but still needs some work. And then for a closer look in here. What a mess. So if you don't unscrew this, you're leaving all of this debris in there. So let's get to work. I'm going to take a paper towel, damp cloth. You can use Q-tips, use what you have available. I've got these little skewers that I like to use with my incubator to get into like the little nooks and crannies. I just put the moist paper towel on the end and I really get into all the little crevices that my fingers can't get into. And then don't forget the top here. Even that needs a nice wipe down, because all those crevices there, they all get full. And honestly, this is just plastic, so this I'm gonna give it a nice rinse in the sink. I washed it with a little soap and water. I'll set it aside to dry with the rest of the incubator. And look, just one little wipe and look at all that I got. Now this is just a little bit damp, just slightly, and I'm just cleaning. Right now I'm cleaning the top part where the fan blades are. Now I've done many hatches without actually cleaning this out, and I do notice that my hatch rates are not as good as they used to be, and guarantee you that this is the culprit, the bacteria in here. So do I think you need to clean this out intricately every hatch? Probably not, but I definitely think it will make a difference. I do have to use this little skewer because there are places in this fan I just can't reach, and then look, just chunks of dander, big chunks, ugh, that just get stuck in there. Now this is the way that I clean my Manna Pro incubator. You will not find this in the instructions. They're pretty vague in the instructions as to how to clean this, and I couldn't find tutorials on the Manna Pro website, and reaching out to them did not result in a response. So I figured I'd share how I go about doing this for those out there that were thinking the same thing as I was, which was, how do I get all that dust out? It is difficult to get down below the fan blades with your fingers, so that's where this little skewer is coming in to extract all that dander. Most of it wiped up, but now I'm going to use this to kind of do a little bit more detailing, just so you can see. So the top looks better. The fan blades cleaned out. It's a big improvement over just leaving all that dust there. So now let's do the fine details on the interior. A lot of nooks and crannies, that's for sure. All right, it's not perfect, but it's a lot better. I'm gonna go over it with a Clorox disinfecting wipe, because that's what I use on my incubator. Or I use diluted bleach and water and wipe it down with a paper towel. That's an option too, depending on what you've got available. I just like to give it a little wipe down. So it's by no means perfect, but it's definitely a lot better than it was. So the electrical components, if you look, they're actually underneath the plastic. You just have to worry about these wires here coming up. So I was very careful around those wires. Got all the dust off here. This here, your reader, just be very gentle with that. and make sure that that goes back inside of the small hole that it pops out of. I'll show you on this side. Pops out of this little hole here, which is part of the fan. So make sure it slips back into there when you screw it back on. And then I cleaned in between all these individual wires here and underneath the whole fan over here. Again, it's not perfect, but definitely a lot better. So now let's screw this back together. And when you're putting this back on, just remember that where the humidity monitor comes through, you want on the opposite side of this. So we're going to line that up, pop it into place. It's not that easy to find the hole, I will give you that. Ooh, that is a small hole. All right. So back on through the second hole. Don't forget the second hole now. Okay, so you want to make sure that just the tip is sticking out, matching it to how it is on this one here, just the tip. Even push it back in just a little bit there. Okay, now we're going to put the screws in on each side to secure. Okay, here we go. Righty tighty, heading clockwise. Secure on that side, all right. Alright, that went on easy, nice and tight. Still got a little tip sticking out, perfect. Alright, I left the screws in each of these, so now we just got to make sure that we line it up correctly here so we can screw it into place. Which, give it a little wiggle, it should feel secure once it's actually on each pedestal. And again, righty tighty, clockwise motion, nice and tight. Last one. There. So now, lifting it from this part, feels nice and secure. This, I can lift it from here, that's nice and tight, so let's flip it. And it didn't fall apart. Perfect. So now that it's clean, let's go test it out. Make sure it still works. And that nothing's screwed up. We want to make sure we got everything together and that this incubator is happy. Just gonna wipe up the top, make sure our top's nice and clean, ready to go. This back together. I do have a video on how I clean the whole thing, so you can check out that video on how to clean the Manna Pro Nurture-Rite 360 incubator. I'll have it linked in the description below. Well, that's a good sign. Egg turner in there. I can hear the fan. It is so nice that turning this fan on, it's not billowing dander all over. In the past, when I haven't been able to get all the dander out of here, I would turn the fan on and it would be all sanitized and clean, and I'd see all these little floaties of dander and be like, oh no! Oh gosh, hopefully that's not gonna affect my hatch. Not this time. There is no dander billowing around that I can see, so whew. Now let's make sure the egg turner works as well. So hit the plus and minus button. Look at it go! So it all works. The electrical components are working. It is warming up. I'm gonna leave this overnight. Let this all dry out. Make sure it all works properly. And then I'm gonna get some eggs in here. And that's it. That's how you clean the dander out of your Nurturite 360 incubator so that you don't have all that dander floating around. And if you want to know how to clean the rest of it, definitely check out the video I made on how to clean the incubator in its entirety and get it set up. And if you haven't started your farm yet, what are you waiting for? Get your farm on.
One, two, three, four. Do you want a farm? A wicked awesome farm? Watch this channel to learn what to do. We love to farm and we'll show you. Yeah.